Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the K8s-Infra meeting. We have July 3rd, and as usual, remember that this meeting is under the code of conduct, so please behave well. We are not a lot today, so I'm expecting this meeting to go very quick. Looking at the agenda, we are just one item to discuss. Feel free to add other items if you want to talk about things. And before we start, do we have like anyone willing to introduce himself or herself?
Yes, hi, my name is Marcel. I'm new here. I'm very interested in learning about Kubernetes infrastructure and yeah, I want to see what's going on here.
Okay.
Welcome.
If that's
Welcome.
okay with everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Can we have like a note taker quick?
I can take some intermittent notes.
Okay, and don't forget to add basically in the list of attendees.
Yeah. Oh, please self-report if possible.
If
Up
possible.
here, got a list. Oops.
Okay. Do we want to do billing review? Yeah, for the sake of the recording, let's do one billing review.
Okay.
You don't have access to it. You have access to AWS, but it's not open for you.
Yeah, I don't have it on here.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I still haven't started that. I have it on my. Oh, go away, Gemini. I still have it on my personal machine only. That yeah. I think we never quite corrected. This is slightly off because it doesn't account for the sustained use commitment that we have. But this does allow this link is viewable if you have joined the SIG mailing list. There's a Google group, as opposed to slightly more involved to use the people can join to view the cloud console, but this one has an even lower bar. Anybody can join the SIG mailing list with open invite, so you can at least get some idea. So it doesn't look like anything's really changed too much here. This looks pretty expected.
Yeah, looking at the trend, I don't think anything changed that much. So we probably want to like just do a check of the last month.
Yeah. Let's check. So this is the main cluster in which we run CI tasks. So not surprising, that's pretty up there. And this is where we host downloads, the container images, though it's also co-hosted on AWS. So not too surprising, and it's good to see that sort of general spend is taking a lot of the rest, and it's no longer completely dominated these days by content hosting.
Yeah, I think that's like the good thing here is like we see costs go down about like serving container images, which means people are maybe doing an upgrade and migrating from KGC.io to
We're redirecting the rest of the traffic. That's one of the things that's happening. So yeah,
okay.
so that's coming. It's actually, we've paused increasing the percentage with the holiday week, but it will resume next week, and by the end of July, it should be all traffic, barring any unexpected issues that crop up. And so that's like marginally more cost effective. The majority of the traffic for which it would be cost effective is already in effect. But now we're closing the gap on just anything, so that the old container registry host domain will just serve it, redirect to the new one in all cases. It's been a long process to get that out. It sounds like a simple change, but there's a lot of like convincing everyone that this is the best option, and it's okay that we're making technically a breaking change to a public service on a GCP domain. So we're rolling that out, and we should see some shift in um the spend from being all GCR to the registry K8s.io, which is artifact registry plus S3 and a small app in front. There's a lot more docs about that if you go to registry.k8s.io. But this all looks pretty expected. It's largely dominated by CI and hosting end user artifact downloads. It used to be mostly end user artifact downloads. We've got that still a lot of the budget, but not the literal majority on its own. And these other things are generally CI. There's a small amount of spend that is other like automation and infrastructure, but it's generally pretty small. We have some more that we're going to be shifting soon, sometime after the 131 release. But I'm expecting that also won't be too much because we moved most of the CI workloads. So like mostly the cost of the control plane, and that's pretty small. It's a small cluster running maybe a dozen little services that are handling GitHub events and that sort of thing, scheduling CI tasks. It's not very resource intensive. It's very important that we have that running in the community finally, but it shouldn't be a big spend. So this is looking pretty good. I think we should probably move on. While we don't have the Amazon dashboard handy here in my case, I can point everyone to, we post weekly in Slack. Can I? Here's the most recent comment. If you go there in our Slack, you can see all the ones we're tracking. We need to get more added there. But so for example, Fastly isn't represented there, though that one part's a little different. We don't have DigitalOcean, and we're expecting to have Azure in the future. But for the ones we are tracking, GCP and AWS, you can see at a high level that we're like tracking the spend rate over time. And if we see any big shifts there, then we'll drill down into where the spend is going and see why is there a big change. Make sure it's nothing unexpected or optimize things. And that those numbers are looking fine. We're using a lot, we're within budget, and we should have enough overhead to finish migrating any of the legacy infrastructure that's still running in like company internal accounts and that kind of thing.
Nice.
Do you want to talk about your topic here, Arno?
Yeah, it's more like TLDR. Basically, KOps, the entire KOps CI is still using the CNCF management account. So I intend this month to do the rotation. So expect basically cost increase on the AWS organization, because currently only ProJob run in the community owned account. I think I will help KOps folks to like finish the migration of the ProJob. There's like not a lot of things remaining on the AWS side. So yeah, we should be expecting all the ProJob move before the deadline of August 1st, and also we will switch the credential to use the community owned account. We don't have an estimate of basically what's gonna look like in terms of cost increase, but I'm expecting something like 10K monthly of cost.
Good to know. Yeah, and so we're generally right now moving the CI jobs so that they're scheduling onto community resources anywhere that they weren't and getting that shored up ahead of we won't attempt to move the control plane until sometime in August because we expect that's going to be pretty disruptive. There's a lot of inbound and outbound things with it automating GitHub and interacting with the rest of the CI infrastructure and so on. I don't think we quite have the bandwidth to make like a super smooth zero downtime transition, so we just don't want to risk touching it late in the Kubernetes release cycle. It'd be great if we could avoid impacting all of the projects, but we kind of expect that we will impact all the projects since this stuff is used so heavily for all of the automation and the merge robot and the testing and everything. So we're at least going to time it to be early in the Kubernetes release cycle since that's the like heaviest demand core project, and we don't want to cause a delay to the release there. So we've had a deadline announced for August 1st to finish getting things out of those scheduling those internal resources so that we're unblocked to attempt moving the control plane, and we've been planning that with SIG testing. So this work here gets some of the remaining K8s CI moved over, and we have a list that we're burning down. Let me pull that up and show that.
About that, I personally think we should try to communicate to the community a date of the attempt
Of the
for our migration.
Well, August 1st is when you have to have things ready. For the actual migration, I expect that we're gonna have some fun when we actually hit August 1st, first of all, and then after that, I think we're gonna have some final planning. I'm a little hesitant because I don't want to give a false sense that we're gonna be able to stick to a tight timeline. There's only we've put out a call for help throughout the year for planning this transition, and we've only gotten so much input there. I'm not confident that we're going to even make it in the first attempt. I think we're going to run into issues and roll back on the control plane migration. So if we tell people like, oh, it's moving on the 10th and it'll just be down for the 10th, that probably won't actually happen. And instead, I think
My
once we're
expectation.
confident,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think once we're confident that we have removed the obvious blocker of still scheduling to internal resources, and that we've like deactivated that, and that's gone well enough that we can not roll that back, then we can announce like sort of we can finish planning and announce an intention. I mean, we also could have an outage at any time. We're going to do our best to minimize it.
Wait,
Okay,
sorry,
so
sorry for interrupting you. What I was trying to say, or what I'm trying to say is, yeah, priority one is like get all the jobs out of there, and then we can hash out a migration plan. I anticipate it's going to be a multi-day effort over a weekend that may spill into maybe a Monday or a Tuesday of the week that we plan. I think anything short of a window where CI is unavailable for X number of days, it's not realistic. I think that's the expectation that we should set to the community that CI is going to be offline for the three days, Friday, well, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and then we'll be back to work the following day.
I also don't really want to ask people to work on this through the weekend though. We have to coordinate with a lot of people. We need access to the GitHub side of settings. We need to coordinate with the old control plane and the new control plane.
A working week also is fine if we say we do this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Sure, but I think we could announce a target or something. But if we do, we should be really clear that it's just what we're aiming for. I'm really not going to be surprised when we find some complications. There's a lot of moving interlinked parts in this infrastructure, and it's been running for like a decade in place. I mean, as is, I'm hesitant because we haven't even burned down this list. I mean, this includes some of our own infrastructure stuff, like the Slack automation here, some of the like Prow things, the image pushing for SIG testing that we use for the infrastructure itself. Like some of those things probably could be moved, but we haven't had enough bandwidth to finish sorting that out. So I'm also a little I'm not going to
I
be
don't
too
think some
surprised
of
if
those
we
will
turn
move.
off the like old clusters for like scheduling things too come August 1st, and then find out that like broke something that we can't have broken and roll forward with the rest.
Yeah, it
But some
sounds
of
good.
these we could roll forward. Let me
So do we want to wait August 1st to before we do the communication that we do a tentative, or do we like try to establish like a window because we know the date of like for the release of 128. 138, sorry. Because we basically know it's gonna be mid-August. Like we could basically say we are attempting over 5 days to do the migration and see what's happening. But we should communicate this.
I don't know, not quite though, because come 1st of August, we need to see what this list looks like. Did the Azure people get the stuff off? Where are we with VMware? What's going on? And then more importantly, what's happening with testing for trusted, right? What are we keeping? What are we getting rid of?
Even if like one job is remaining, we can treat that as exception and basically say we have until like the cutover dry run to make sure
So what I would
migrate.
like to do is make sure that early August, the default cluster kubeconfig is removed from Prow.
Okay,
On a
if it's not
Kubernetes,
happening,
run out.
let's say currently what's remaining is like 96 for our job. August 1st, like Azure is not set up, it's not done with like such a bootstrap. So we stuck with like some
No, no, no,
Azure.
no, no. I'm not. I was not talking about that. I think we can't afford to block on that.
It's
We need to be able to move forward, but there's some automation that hasn't moved yet. That's part of the project's core automation, right? So like
I'm
label
taking an
sync is an
example.
example, and some of those we can afford. Like label sync is okay if that has it like a period where we haven't migrated yet. But some of the other stuff is used to like run Prow itself, and is probably a bit too much to be doing during the control plane migration and needs to get sorted out. So some of these things down in trusted, I think those are showstoppers if they aren't sorted out by then. We'll aim to. The other thing that I think we're missing here and why I didn't set a really specific day and instead that the announcement we've made so far sets an expectation that we will attempt to move in August following the releases. If you look, the release timeline has actually shifted and the release is now targeted for August 13th. So we can't actually do the like final migration, the first week or two of August. Instead, we're going to be using the first week or two of August now as a more prolonged ironing out the deactivating the default cluster and that sort of thing. And the release timeline could shift again. So if we announce like a specific day, but that's not actually what we're aiming for. We're aiming for some time window after the release is done because we know we don't want to try to move this during the final stage of the Kubernetes release. That's really unfair to a ton of people working on the release process.
Yeah, it's just too painful and it's gonna piss everybody off.
No, my goal here is not necessarily to basically be impactful in the release process, but more like communicate in advance that to SIG release that basically we're doing something and you
Oh,
should
but
delay because we can literally
we
come.
have announced that. If you go read the announcement about you need to have your jobs migrated, it discusses that we are moving Prow following that and that it will be pending after the release. When the release is though is a moving target. The release often gets delayed at the last minute. So
I understand that we communicate about this, not necessarily people got that part.
Okay.
because
I mean, we
yeah,
can send a reminder, but I really don't think it should have a day, because
okay,
that will set the wrong idea that people can just like save that date. And really, the actual day is a moving target that is defined by the combination of readiness and the release being complete.
okay.
And right now the release has moved back. I think it moved back like a week or
August,
two.
August.
Now the 13th.
No, it's August the 14th.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's good though, right? We can use that extra week to effectively take the default cluster offline and see what that causes itself, and also get rid of testing for trusted too.
yeah,
Ah,
Yeah, that itself is a piece of engineering that needs to be done, right?
yeah.
So
I think that's
first,
exactly what we do. Um,
exactly.
I actually I've started talking to the folks that like keep the Prow stuff running inside of Google, Cole, Michelle, and my tentative plan is to, instead of touching the kubeconfig, I think the easiest, most revertible thing we can do is drop the IAM permissions to schedule to itself. That might not work for trusted. I need to revisit that. But at least for the default cluster to start, my plan was to just drop the IAM permissions for the Prow service account to schedule to the build cluster. And then if we go, oh no, we broke something that is going to block all of this, like some of Prow's built-in automation that is running as a job or something like that, then we can that's very easy to roll back.
Yeah,
But
you'll have to make some Kubernetes RBAC changes. I'm guessing you're still using bearer tokens instead of GCP IAM. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, we have a little bit of time to finish planning that, and we can take advantage of the increased delta between when the release is happening and the hard deadline we set to like prepare your jobs for this there. But like the amount of outage we have, I mean, we can have an outage at any time. Part of the risk we have right now is because it isn't migrated. If Prow goes down tonight, none of the people that have access to it are going to be around until Monday. Monday morning, US Pacific. They're just not going to be, because this is not a staff 24/7 on call, and Googlers have the US holiday off for the rest of the week. So, like, we can't make guarantees about downtime. That what we can tell people is we're going to have some downtime after the release happens, after we've deactivated scheduling to the legacy clusters and are only scheduling the community clusters, and we can um, roll forward with moving the control plane. I do think we should re-communicate that, but I don't think we can get a lot more specific than that.
Sorry, I cannot find the resend. Would it be possible? So for the downtime that happened after the Kubernetes release, would it be possible to have 3-4 days or buffer after the release? Because many things like Cluster API and many provider, basically they cut a release immediately after Kubernetes release is out.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna want to do it like directly the day after, but I mean, again, it's hard to say because this is all a moving target, right? We don't know what we're gonna run into between now and then, and we don't know when the release is actually going to happen, and we're also subject to the availability of everybody that needs to be involved in the process, because there's a lot of sensitive credentials involved here, and we're not necessarily going to wind up with any one or two people that have access to all of it legitimately. For now, we're going to be coordinating between at least three groups: K8s-Infra, the people with the internal Prow, and the GitHub admin team that has the access for all the organization GitHub settings for the project. I've at least limited that a bit where I have more access to Proud now, so I can do most of that myself now. But we can't grant that to everyone, right? Because the old internal stuff is internal.
Yeah.
So
it
yeah,
is just...
I totally think we should, avoid that. At the same time, I'm I'm concerned about letting this slip too much because I do think it's going to take us possibly multiple attempts to get it to work, with all of the interlocking pieces. And we only have support for this Prow instance through the end of the year. And then after that, I like that already took a lot of negotiating. It might wind up being that like I am the support for the Prow instance or something.
No,
We
no,
really need to get out
I
from under
thought
that.
I totally get it. If we can get 2-3 days, it will be enough, more than enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think that again, I don't want to make like super specific commitments because there's just so much unknown. But I think that ideally we should not just wait for Kubernetes to be released, but a little bit later. But as is, that already pushes us into like the third week of August. Um, and I mean, then we're gonna have other things coming up for everyone, KubeCon and whatnot. So and I think we want some time to attempt it, find out what didn't work, attempt it again. Like I said, some of the things that interact with each other are actually running as scheduled and things. I don't think anybody has actually like cold started an instance this large. Prow is hooked up. This Prow instance, this CI instance is hooked up to hundreds of repos and multiple organizations doing all kinds of stuff, including self-deploying and whatnot. Um, we, one of the things we might fall back on is actually doing a cold start, in which case, even if Prow is technically running, all of the CI is going to thrash horribly for a while until it settles down on not scheduling everything at the same time. And I don't think that I think we're so bogged down in finishing migrating these workloads out that we're not going to have a lot of time to implement like something more intelligent to avoid that. And we're probably just going to have to accept that um it's going to be in a bad state for a bit until things settle down, even when we successfully migrate. um but like if
Okay.
that's how it's going, we should probably just roll forward and let it settle.
Yeah, I got it, and I appreciate all the effort to yeah to
I mean, the
wrangle
biggest thing we have
down.
here is sorry.
No,
The biggest thing we
it
have
is
here is that
just
you should be able to do something much nicer than this, but we know we just don't have a big enough resource commitment. Everybody's kind of doing this as like a part-time thing on the side. That's like we know we need to get this into a better state, but no one's really going to just like full-time spend all their time on this or even all of their spare time. This is not the most exciting or interesting thing. But at the same time, it requires a lot of trust to have access to like the automation that runs all of these projects. And there's a lot of weird tech debt in it. I think we're just gonna have to push through. And we actually used to have CI outages a lot more often. We did a lot to stabilize it. I think we're just gonna have to have one for a little bit here, and that's okay. And then the end result will be okay. Now that it's running in the community accounts, everyone can pitch in as much as they want to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be messy. I really don't want to make a huge outage here, but at the same time, I think that it's even worse if we have to keep punting this. The project started this effort what 5-6 years ago or something now, and it has taken a long time. I'm impressed that we've even burned down this list as small as it is, but we still actually get new jobs added periodically. Like there was a new cap Z job added the other day when I was got a few more migrated out, and it's like it's all there's still like 500 or something. A lot of them will be the Azure ones that we're hopefully getting pretty close to sorting out, but there's just a lot. We just discovered that some of the SIG node stuff has other random mystery Amazon infrastructure that we didn't know about. And I don't know how people are going to have enough time to sort that out. So I think, the other thing is even with Prow running, some of this stuff is just going to be down because it didn't successfully get rebootstrapped on community infra yet. And we're trying to make sure that that isn't something like the Slack moderation that could be kind of disastrous for the community at large, or the like core GitHub automation. But some of the sub projects may have like some of their CI missing because we announced back early this year that they need to do they really need to finish migrating, and they're like not there yet.
No, but let me say, just to, I already told this a couple of times, but it's good to reiterate. So I think that we at least, I speak personally, but I know Stefan, Christian, many other folks share this. So we truly appreciate what you do. The stability, we are so used to a good service that is you know, every time we work with something else, we appreciate you more, and and this and this apply to many services we are facing. So we truly appreciate what you're doing. We understand the engineering complexity you are facing. We don't want to push back and stop. It was just a note. After Kubernetes release happen, many other releases happen. If we can give 2 days of buffer, that will be great. But we are, as a project, we understand and we know this in advance, and we are bracing ourselves in order to, let me say, handle disruption that is expected without affecting too much users. That means that we are trying to merge everything before 1st of August, stuff like that. So we are trying to, let me say, make our part of the job. It was just a note. We give 2 days more, maybe this helps everyone around.
Well,
That's it.
I appreciate the discussion, because I mean, I think this is the sort of thing that we need input on, and it's hard to settle on. But you know, I sort of playing devil's advocate a little bit on, we also have to avoid, the easiest thing that we see is to just add more. I think we had something similar in a different way happen with the release, where we kept adding in more stabilization time for everything, and we recently pushed back a little bit and said, you know, there's like no time to actually merge code. The window to code freeze is super short, and it has some like major holidays where a lot of people are unavailable, and like we're not actually going to get much done. So yes, it'll be a very stable release, but I think so. I think, I guess that's my only there is the like
Yeah.
playing a little bit, but I
It is
don't like
fair.
doing it. I really don't want to make downtime for anyone. I don't want to break anyone's stuff, and we're trying to like thread the needle. But I think you're right. I'm not sure exactly how many days, but I think we really shouldn't, you know, do like the day after Kubernetes successfully releases, because all of the cluster life cycle-ish projects will be dropping a release soon after that. The question is, some of them don't necessarily get it within like a day or two. And like, you know, how much buffer do you give? And I think we're already getting squeezed a little bit by, I mean, I was over here on the side of we need to give the Kubernetes release some more time, but now that's eating into our plans to you know.
I think that, as I said, we can go Cluster API community and say, guys, we have 2 days buffer. Otherwise, we you know, we will connect. That's fair.
I think, you know, maybe we should specifically highlight this to SIG cluster lifecycle, because I think it's basically SIG cluster lifecycle and and basically everything else isn't that tightly coupled to the Kubernetes release.
Being realistic, Ben, there are 2 or 3 cluster API between core cluster API and providers. There are 2 or 3 projects that have enough stuff to release immediately after Kubernetes. The other came in scattered timelines. So I think that it is enough to talk with Core Cluster API, CapV, and I can speak for them. 2 days are good enough. And I have to sync up with CapZ folks.
I would also talk to, like, for example, Minikube. I'm not sure how quick K8s is, but like that's where I'm thinking, or like I don't.
Yeah. I will reach out to the cluster recycle mailing list, but I think that we can try to settle. Hey guys, we recommend to release in the next 3 days, otherwise, or 2 days after the release, because due to these activities, due to the well-known activity, etc., etc.
Okay.
This is the same, the extra window that we get.
Can you follow back up with like the SIG K8s-Infra Slack or something once we've with that thread or any feedback we get, so we can see if
Yeah, but
we're gonna.
Yeah, I will do, and I will do this way. I will not ask an open question. I will give the shorter time frame, which is 2 days, and then
Okay.
eventually it's up to you to add a third one as a buffer, and see if someone complain. This is already a gift that we get, and we appreciate.
Okay, I think
think
that's fair.
The one thing is like basically the release for 131 is basically middle of the week, so we can like basically say, okay, we start the migration the week after that. That's possible, assuming there's no delay in the release.
Yeah,
in
this
the
will be
release
great.
schedule. Yeah.
This
So
will
I
be
think the
great.
buffer, if there's no point to basically start the migration on Thursday and basically say we post that on Friday. There's no point. So I think it's better to basically say, okay, we should start that beginning of the week and like continue and make sure like basically during that week we finish the migration. So the buffer is more like okay-ish because you also have got to after the release. So
that's okay. I appreciate. I will reach out telling 2 days, and depending on and if a release date change, we will reconsider. So I will kind of put some caveats that is not written in the stone or whatever, to follow Ben narrative before, and also because it is true, we know this since 1 year. So if project did not prepare well, is not going to work out. And I will write an email to the mailing list tomorrow.
I wonder if there's anything else that we're missing. I mean, we probably should do something more general, but I think I would, speaking for myself, I think what I'd like to see is if there's any significant reasons that that's not going to work out for cluster lifecycle as a starting point, since we know they're there, and then we'll probably follow that with reaching out to the like dev mailing list or something for everyone. Cry cuddle. There'll be a couple other things that would be nice if they can pull it off. And have some heads up that like if they can't, they're probably going to need to plan to wait a little bit. But I can't think of many other ones that I've personally seen that release often, or like close to the Kubernetes release. But we do have a lot of repos. I just think that cluster lifecycle is one of the most obvious ones, because like you mentioned, people want to be able to use the new clusters, and everybody wants that within the project. We want people using the new releases and getting that feedback.
I think we can follow up. We can follow up that basically async. Like the one thing I will ask Fabricio is basically during the SCL meeting to basically put a reminder to people that basically August 1 is happening, and after August 1 for migration. So people need to double check the CI, make sure that's reduce the burden on us.
That's true as well for anything that isn't migrated. But like the current plan is to stick to that date where we're not necessarily moving the control plane, but we are like attempting to turn off any of the internal stuff and kind of see if anything really disastrous happens there, and like get that worked out before the much bigger like migrate the control plane for everything.
Yeah.
And that might be disruptive.
I can give a quick update about this fair. And we are talking about the 1st of August deadline. So long story short, we are still waiting for internal process to complete and get the funding. It seems just bureaucracy. We are in a new company basically, and this time is not as easy as before. I will get update next week. The plan, given that the information that we got from manager is that the funding is going to arrive. They only don't know exactly when. The idea is that we will accept basically in case they do not arrive in time, we will accept CapV job being turned down, and the project will go in a sort of extended code freeze, hopefully for a short time frame. That's the
Okay. Do you, as a contingency, can we do something like, I guess we can't really spin up on like, like Equinix or something like that, but maybe the like vSphere maintainers in the project can sort of test critical patches or something.
yeah,
manually?
we can test manually locally
Mhm.
with internal infra.
And
Or
maybe we can get contributors to invest more in like mocks and unit and stuff.
yeah, we are investing, we are increasing the test coverage using VCSIM, which is a sort of vSphere simulator. So yeah, we are bracing basically for contingency.
Okay. That's really good to hear because that was the biggest one for me. I think all of the other ones we kind of know with like DigitalOcean, the CNCF is already paying for it, but we don't have any visibility into the spend. It's not being monitored. And I mean, the secret we don't know anything about. So we haven't gotten one re-provisioned yet. And there's like a handful of things using that. And then Azure, like we have the budget commitment, but it's taken some time to actually get it to a place where we can use it in the infra.
Yeah, we are
Like it's
more
like the resources technically arrived like maybe 2 months ago or something, but we haven't got it still hasn't actually been usable yet. And that almost everything else is sorted. I'm personally going to be looking at, we have a fun edge case with like some of the Slack stuff where you actually can't provision those anymore. It's some old legacy kind of credential, and there isn't the developer resources to retool to try to implement the same thing against something else. So like that's still probably gonna bite us at some point, but probably the most reasonable thing is like it's a community known Slack account. Just take the token and move it, which is not great. But like yeah, we've got most of them burned down. I think they're the base for Azure and DigitalOcean are the three that are in like varying phases of like we're sorting it out, but it's not ready and it's a little concerning, but
Yeah.
at least it doesn't impact something like the Slack automation that is the whole every sub project. Those
Yeah,
are a
and
lot scarier and we haven't quite finished those yet.
yeah,
With Azure, I actually have some updates on that. So there are two engineers from Microsoft working on it. They've got access to subscription. I've asked them to, hey, anything permanent that's going to live in that sub has to be written through Terraform, or any way you put it. One of them has opened a PR proposing some infrastructure they've been deploying. So I think there's some work happening.
Awesome. Yeah, so it sounds like we're getting pretty close on that one. The DigitalOcean one is like mostly bureaucracy, like that should be fine-ish, but it's weird because we haven't gotten a lot of response from the CNCF on that one yet.
Someone needs to chase GFU when he gets a minute. Team conferences.
Yeah, I've been pinging pretty regularly. I think we kind of collectively need to like poke that one some more. Or no?
For Azure, what's basically do they need the help from us to basically bootstrap the thing, or we can just leave them doing their thing?
Azure, I'm just gonna leave it to the Microsoft people. My only requirement is I just do this in Terraform so the community can run it later, and make tweaks to it. Anything that's permanent.
Okay.
Temporary needs to be cleaned up using Boscus and all the other tooling that we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That
okay,
sounds great.
because I'm wondering like basically if we can speed up the process if we provide help, but I'm also like, because I'm not confident we're gonna migrate all the Azure related PowerShell bugs first. But I'm like,
We'll check
maybe.
in next week and see where they're at.
Okay.
And then tell them to pick up the pace and get some help in. One thing that I do want in the Azure sub though is a pure ARM cluster. The Oracle one is a bit buggy, and Etsy they've been chasing me for one for a minute, so they need one. It doesn't have to be that big. They want to test an interesting use case.
Can we do that in AWS with like
Uh,
Graviton?
Graviton 3 is available.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
here's the thing
one.
though. We need every node pool on the cluster to be ARM, like without exception, because
I
for
think you can do that
the
in EKS or GKE.
GK you can't, because you do have
We can
sorry,
now.
can you? Interesting.
Yeah, we can now if because we upgrade the control plane, so we should be able to get T2A.
Well,
as
we
my
could.
well.
We're talking about
preference
making a
would
different
be,
cluster, right?
Yeah.
there was a PR that someone opened some time ago in test infra to basically allow scheduling, so you could taint the job and all that cool stuff, but it was breaking
Oh.
its.
Oh, so why do we need an ARM cluster specifically?
Oh,
I think
so actually want to run tests, the robustness and EDB tests on real ARM hardware. They do that today, but it uses some sketchy provider that we don't quite have access to.
I mean, we
okay.
would actually consider
Specifically-
something like running Kubernetes unit tests and stuff if we had like a stable, low fuss ARM cluster. I think we
Yeah,
would
because
probably run some more like because we have things that are not like really unit, like integration or something, or maybe like kind clusters. Um, if we could schedule to ARM.
Yeah, I mean, if we can do that Azure, that's fine. We can have like one dedicated cluster for ARM64 and for tests, and that could be open to the entire community, not only at CD.
It would also be nice more generally if we can do kind of replicate the pattern we're doing where when we're running like EDB on AWS, it's on the EKS cluster, and we're running EDB on GCE, it's on the GKE cluster. But it wasn't clear if we have enough budget for that. So that's probably something to discuss as we're spinning up infra. I also didn't want them to be totally blocked on like, probably get the jobs working first, run them on the EKS cluster or something like that, and iterate from there so they can, since they have provided the credit, so we can avoid the downtime
yeah,
Yeah.
instead of boiling the ocean.
I think for the ARM64, we can basically make sure we have all the Azure jobs migrate, see the cost, because I don't think I feel like budget should be enough to cover all the proud job related to Azure. And when you basically see the spend, we can say to etcd, okay, this is your dedicated cluster.
I think that will fit fine. I'm talking about if all of the Azure related jobs are running on an Azure build cluster, that might eat into it a bit. I also know they wanted to do some scale testing, and I pumped the brakes a little bit and said, why don't we spin up Azure scale
problem at
testing
a time.
after we've migrated?
Yeah, after that's what I'm saying. Any expense, any basically cost not related to their existing infrastructure, we should like just delay that after we do the migration.
Yeah, I think that's right. Speaking of that, Arno, are you gonna have a chance to do the Fastly bucket
This month,
Okay.
July, basically August 1st is also my deadline for this. It's like
Okay.
I need to talk to Fastly first
I'm
to
a little
validate. Yeah.
Wait, why do we need to talk to Fastly?
To validate a few configuration change I'm gonna introduce, and that's it.
Can we just attempt them? Or do we have like a staging endpoint?
We have a staging endpoint. I did a test, but it's like basically my test looks like a local DNS.
Okay.
But
I don't want to block too much, because my other concern is that when we need to get that data on how much is it actually going to cost, how much traffic is leaking through to the bucket, and I can't readily produce that until we actually throw the traffic at it.
It's very easy to check this. You just go to the Fastly platform, you look for
Yeah, but that doesn't really tell me how much the bill is on the backing bucket.
And
that's a concern that I have with the migration.
The problem with that is basically you will not really see the real expense because there's a discount between Fastly and Google.
No, but that's fine. The real expense is the expense we'll see, whatever traffic gets through, because we're gonna not make that bucket public this time. The old bucket is public read, and a lot of the traffic is not coming through Fastly, so I can't tell how much traffic is, how much of that expense is actually from
the
Yeah.
data you get from Fastly +1 is because the traffic between
Right.
GCP and so Fastly and GCP is like 50 terabytes per month.
Right. So if we do a trial and we
Yeah.
actually point at the bucket, then we'll have real hard numbers that'll be a lot better than anything else we're doing. I want to get that information soon, so we can plan around it as we're doing all this other stuff, because that's one of the few things that we know about aside from CI that has the potential to be expensive that isn't migrated yet.
I think you basically want like the validation because the number I see telling me that the cost is like literally nothing, honestly.
Yeah,
you can basically go check Fastly platform, look at basically
yeah, I did look at that. It just seemed a little. I wasn't. I would love to get some hard numbers because of what I'm seeing on the old bucket. I'm hopeful that that is mostly traffic that's not going through Fastly, but to really confirm it, I need to, we should get that data, and it should be straightforward. Right? We just need to do like maybe a week against like a synced bucket. That's not even really disruptive to the release process, because at most there's the latency of syncing between the old bucket and the new bucket, even if they're not publishing direct to it yet. So we just need to have a time window where we swap them out and collect some information, and then back off and say, was that reasonable?
The binary sync every hours. So I mean,
yeah. So we could do that pretty much any time. We should do it sooner than later, so we know like a much, we get a much better idea on that. And we're also, I mean, it's gonna have to be like a week or more, because we know that the traffic is, it changes a lot over the course of the like business week. The patterns match utilization from the end users.
Yeah, it's gonna be a full week, but like, because the thing is like, because we already know the traffic between Google and Fastly, changing the origin doesn't matter to me, because it's still gonna be the same traffic. The most of basically everything served from Fastly network most of the time. So the switch is like any TTL applied to an
GCS
object.
bucket, you're also going to get charged by like the number of accesses and so on. So right now I can't readily split that between the traffic that is sort of, for lack of a more accurate term off the top of my head, illicitly going to the bucket directly versus from Fastly. I don't have a good way to do that, because I don't have full access to this, because it's in a sensitive old project. So it's it's not very easy to disambiguate, but we already need to do a attempt at this. So if we migrate for a small period, we'll get some hard data on how big that expense is.
Honestly, I saw the number. I know basically what kind of discounts apply between on the egress between Google and Fastly.
But we've had some surprises before with how these things are actually computed. So I really just want to like run it for a week and get the numbers.
Okay.
And then just figure out if we can commit, and if for some reason that isn't like what you're expecting, then we need to regroup and figure out how we're going to make that work. I recently had to do some stuff on the internal side to maintain the access to that bucket. That project's getting locked down, and we have a number of exceptions in place that like allow it to keep functioning. So that's another one of those, like, it's a risk, and it's a risk that we should be able to get in front of, but we still haven't actually, even though we have the Fastly.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of the release process for one of our products. When I'm done, I'm gonna be focused on upstream. It's just I have to catch up with a few things.
The other thing is, like, if you don't have time, then I can make some more time to I think the thing that's blocking me is I don't actually like I can read the VCL well enough. I'm not actually at a place where I can deploy it. I need to like figure out how I'm supposed to get an auth token and wire it up to the Terraform and whatever.
Wait, we extra time, so I'm gonna pause the recording.
Okay.